Rio. I want to go there because then I'm not sure. I don't hear anything. Do you? I will test you. I am Zoom, but I don't get anything. Yeah, I will test you where we are. Okay. Uh, this back door is right now. You know the other one? The one? Yeah, this one right here. Don't like it yet. Yeah. Yeah, let me see. I don't even know I have a key for that. You know, the other one over there is too big, that's the board one.
Oh, Gerardo's coming.
We'll call you, right? Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everyone to the regular board meeting for the Robla School District. We will go ahead and we will rise for the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, let the record show all board members are present and accounted for, and there was no action taken in closed session. Move on to item C, adoption of the agenda, and the only amendment is to, we want to take the director of curriculum out of the consent agenda and have it approved on its own. Other than that, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Move on to communications. We'll start with public comment. The purpose of this is for individuals wishing to address the board on non-agenda items. We are doing this on the internet, so if you're watching via YouTube, please go ahead and write your comments into the chat section there, and we'll go ahead and read those comments. We realize there's a little bit of a delay, so we'll give you a few minutes to go ahead and put your comments in there. So we'll go ahead and read those comments. We realize I thought I just muted that. There you go, muted again. Okay, I am not seeing any comments, so we will move right along. And if we missed your comments, We'll come back and check, and we'll go ahead and we'll read them a little bit later if we need to. All right, next we will move on to reports, and we will start with, do we have a report from the Robla Education Foundation?
I did not receive anything.
See if I
I'm-
received
Yeah, I'm
anything.
gonna double check as well.
Anybody else receive anything? Nope, does not appear to be a report from the Robla Education Foundation. So we will move right along to anything from CSEA.
Actually, I will share that I did hear from the leadership from both of our employee associations, CSCA and RTA, who had been working on actually preparing a presentation that at the last minute for some technical issues was not able to come through. So they hope to have that for us at our next meeting.
Robla Teachers Association. Right. So with that, we'll move on to Superintendent's report.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. I am very excited to welcome everyone officially to the brand spanking new Robla School District Boardroom. This is our first meeting in this room. This is a building that was recently completed. This project has been going on for quite some time. And we moved in, those of us who are housed in this building, over the district's spring break. And there's a few details that we're still working on, but mostly we're all settled in, and that's very, very exciting. I think I would just like to say that I feel that the new building now reflects the high level of professionalism that exists behind the doors and the windows of this building. I don't feel that our old building really kind of said that to our community. And it really does raise, I think, the profile of in the community of this Robla School District and those who visit us and those who do business with us. So we are very proud to have this nice new facility to conduct the important business that we conduct here in the Robla School District. As I said, it's been a long process getting this building up and running, and we're grateful to our partners with this. Mostly Clark and Sullivan Construction Company and other consultants that have worked with us along the way. But I think more importantly, I'd like to acknowledge district staff who put in a lot of time taking care of all the details, specifically Gerardo Castillo, our CBO, and Mark Langley, our Director of Maintenance, and Nicole Sullivan, our HR person, who all were very instrumental in making this building happen. I have a lot of gratitude to them about that. Robla Schools reopened on March 22nd. Reports from teachers and administrators alike are that in-person learning is going very well. Teachers are very clearly thrilled to see their students, and students are very clearly thrilled to see their teachers. The school climates are very positive. Everybody seems to be very happy to be here. We're still working out a few wrinkles. One of them is surveillance testing that we'll be doing with students and staff if they choose to participate. And that will help us to ensure on a regular basis that nobody at school has COVID and is asymptomatic. And so that will begin soon. We are doing trials right now and working out all of those details. And so that will continue to evolve as it needs to. We're still working on balancing class sizes. Of course, the families who selected the different models, we had to fit them into our negotiated class size agreements, and a few things were off. We've done some balancing, but we need to continue to work on that to make sure that we are within the numbers that we should be within. This is in the month of April. We are in LCAP season, the Local Control Accountability Plan. At the last board meeting, I did a presentation to the board around engaging with the community and talking to you about the details of how we will develop our LCAP. And now we are in the process of engaging with the community. Principals are having meetings at their school sites. I met yesterday with the Robla Teachers Association, and we'll be meeting soon with the CSCA. And this is our chance to kind of share with them how we will move forward with this and seek their input and give them an opportunity to give us their thoughts and ideas. Mrs. Lyon, our Director of State and Federal Programs, is working on the document itself using the template, and she's already making some progress with that. And we want to be sure that our LCAP document aligns closely with a new plan that is required, which is the Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant, which is funding from the state. We are moving forward with developing that plan as well, and that is funding from the state in order to help school districts expand learning opportunities to help make up for any of the losses that happened during the pandemic. We are required to develop a plan in order to make that in order to spend that money. And there's some very specific ways that money can be spent. Obviously, it needs to directly benefit students. And as is so often is the case with the state, it must also make sure that we are providing services for special needs groups. So students who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, English learners, foster youth, homeless youth, those groups that generally we do want to make sure we are paying special attention to. Students who may not have come to school regularly during the pandemic. So we will be developing that plan as well. And we began that process by creating a staff survey. So that was sent out to all employees last week and ended on Friday. And we are now analyzing that data so that we can use that input to help us guide that plan, which we want to make sure coordinates with our LCAP. And we also in the district are talking in great detail about what school will look like when everything returns to normal. And we have created what we are calling a committee that is called the Post-Pandemic Task Force. And that group of administrators and professional learning support teachers are talking about the situation we know that is coming. And we want to have a good plan for that. And of course, we want that plan to coordinate with our LCAP and our Expanded Learning Opportunity Grant. We are working with some SCOE consultants from the Sacramento County Office of Education. And we recently found out that Pivot Learning is interested in doing some research on this work with us and will actually be providing some funding to us around that piece. So we will have much more to share when those plans are developed. And finally, this evening, I would just like to acknowledge that this is Administrative Assistance Week, and we have wonderful administrative assistants here in the Robla School District who provide a great deal of support to all of the work that's happening here. So I want to thank all of them this week. I hope we thank them all year long, but especially this week. And I want to take a minute, of course, to thank the person who keeps me up and running every single day, Shari Malaspine, who also I know supports the board. So I tried to find some ways to express my gratitude to Shari this week. I try to do that all the time, but I just want to take a minute to thank her for all of her efficiency and her dedication and the way that she reads my mind and knows what I'm going to need before sometimes I remember to tell her that I need it. So we're Shari, I'm lucky to have you. We're all lucky to have you, and thank you for all you do. And that's my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Rubin, or Superintendent Reyes. Okay, we're going to move on now to board member reports, and we'll start with Trustee Devine.
Nothing to report.
Trustee Cardona,
Nothing to report.
Trustee Barnes,
I'll make this quick. Just want to say a lot of hard work and planning went into us opening for in-person instruction, and I'm very happy to see how all of that planning and hard work has paid off. And yeah, everything seems to be working. So congratulations to everyone who worked so hard at this. Thank you.
Trustee Boyd.
Yeah, first, I hope everybody's Earth Day was out of this world. I did have a chance to visit Bell Evidence School last week, and it really was nice. It was almost like Christmas, homecoming, get to go in and see everybody. It was after classes let out, but it was nice to get to see faces again. And I'd like to thank everybody for everything they've done. I could go on forever listing all that went on, including these new facilities, getting ready for it and all the hard work, getting everybody. But one thing I'd just like to say, going back to Bell Avenue, was I received the same report. Everybody was really ecstatic. The kids were happy to get back. The teachers are real happy. And I got to see, I can't remember the after-school program. I keep wanting to say not First Five, but the city.
We've always called it START, and actually that's not the name that the city uses anymore, but, and I'm not gonna recall
It
right
used
now.
to be Start, and I don't know what the new name is. Yeah.
And I saw Miss Bree. I don't know her last name again. But there was a handful of kids out there, but it was just almost like the pandemic didn't exist. They were out there playing the same as when I left. And I just want to say that I guess funding is up in the air for that to continue. So if we can do anything to help that along, I would suggest we do it, because they have contributed a lot to this district. And that's all I have.
And I'll just report. So we've started doing regular meetings. For those of you who don't know, I sit on the delegate assembly for the California School Boards Association. I'm in Region 6, which includes school districts from basically in the greater Sacramento area, including some in West Sacramento, as well as up into El Dorado Hills. And so we've largely been talking about where our reopening plans are and what everybody's doing. And I'm happy to say that we are, if not ahead of most districts, we're right there. And that's in no small part because of the work of our superintendent and our administrative staff, as well as the work in particular of our collective bargaining units and their commitment to providing quality education to our students. They've really been focused on and focused with our staff, with our administration on, okay, how do we, one, during the time that we're closed, provide the best quality education that we can for our kids, but also how do we reopen safely. And anyway, but it's just hearing some of the challenges that other districts are going through, and I don't wish those challenges on anybody. I am happy to hear that we're doing so well comparatively. I don't think anybody's doing fantastic or great right now, but knowing that you're in a position like the task force that the superintendent has put together is once again, that's a step ahead of what so many other districts are doing. So I just want to say kudos to our staff, to our collective bargaining units, to our administration. Okay, now we're going to move on to presentations and information, and we're going to start with the annual audit report.
Mr. Castillo, just make sure you're speaking right into the microphone, if you would. Thank you.
Could I go? No, it's not report, it's a presentation, so there's no, yeah. So Miss Aubrey Manchis, the CPA and partners of the Wilkinson, Hanley, King and Company will present the 2019-20 report. This report officially closes 19-20 fiscal year. The audit report has been submitted to the County Office of Education and to the state and other agencies, and it's also posted in our web page. So this is not my presentation, this is the auditors. So I just here introducing Ms. Adriman, who will do the presentation through Zoom. So this.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, members of the board, superintendent. I'm happy to be here via Zoom with you tonight to present the audit for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2020. I want to start by thanking Mr. Castillo and his staff for the hard work that they put into this audit. It was kind of a different year doing the audit remotely due to COVID, but we were able to get everything we needed and worked with Mr. Castillo to get the audit evidence necessary to be able to complete this audit. So we really appreciate his time and the staff at the school district. On page 99 of our audit report is a summary of the results of the audit. We issued an unmodified opinion, which means that the financial statements as presented do fairly represent the financial position of the district. We did have 2 audit findings. The first being a vacation carryover, which is a growing balance, and a significant number of employees that have balances have more than 100 hours accrued. So we're continuing to encourage the district to encourage those vacations to be taken. I know that was difficult this past year with COVID, but hopefully as things normalize, your employees will be able to take their vacations and enjoy their time. And then the second finding with the school accountability report card, we did identify data that was inconsistent between the accountability report card and the district's facility walkthrough due to a typo in preparing the SART. So those were the 2 findings out of all of the programs that we audited, which included 2 federal programs and 15 state programs. Are there any questions I can answer for the board?
Questions?
I don't have any.
I do have a question. Are we going to get a copy of the audit?
Yes, it's posted in
Yes,
the.
you should
Yeah.
have it
We-
already.
We receive a copy and I think it's.
Item, action item B.
Yeah. So, I did, requested I could also print hard copies if needed. We just send it through the soft copy and it's posted in the webpage, but I could do that too as well.
There's no link to open it.
If you go to action item B, so if you go under action items, not under reports, but action items,
Oh.
yeah, that's where the audit report is.
Okay, I was looking for that.
Yeah.
All right, okay, good, okay. I was looking for those, but
Okay, any other questions? Thank you so very much for your report.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Castillo, before you leave the room, can I just say that even though there were just two smallish findings with the audit, Mr. Castillo takes this all very seriously, and we've already been having lots of conversations about both. Well, one was a very small detail, a discrepancy in the SARC, which is really just a typo, so I don't know that there's anything we can do about that. But the vacation accrual is something that we've been having discussions about, and I am pleased to say that he has come up with a really good plan to solve a problem that has been with us for some time, long before he came to us. And I think for the first time, we're going to be able to kind of fix this. And so when we're ready to share those details, we will do that with the board.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to the SPSA reports for Robla and Main Avenue schools.
I'm opening for them. I'm the opening act. That's Gail.
No, she's got it. You have your own.
Google.
Okay, she'll send it to him. Just give us a second.
Good evening. Happy Earth Day.
Good evening. Third day.
I love how we introduce an item and then that person just magically appears in the room.
Magically.
This is so wonderful.
going down.
He's got.
Well, while they're looking for that, I can get started a little bit because I just wanted to welcome our new board member and thought I'd give a little bit of an introduction of why we're doing the school level plans and then just present to you some challenges that we've had this year that our principals have been facing and just kind of give you a little bit of background into the development of the plans. Okay.
Mrs. Lyon, just be sure you're speaking directly into the microphone. Thank you.
Okay. So The school level plans, as I said, I'm just going to give you a little bit of an introduction, talk a little bit about some of the challenges that the principals and the sites faced in the development, and then I'll hand it over to our first school site and principal, Mr. Mario Penman. So first of all, a reminder of what the federal and state requirements are. School site plans or school level plans, now called school plans for student achievement, have been around for a long time as a federal requirement, but now they're also part of a requirement under state mandates, education code. So Robla has been doing school plans because all of our school sites receive Title I federal funds. And those are things like Title I is for unduplicated counts of students that are in the poverty level, as well as Title III, which is for English learners. So we have had our plans for as far back as we can remember. But now there's a new component to the plans that has to do with the local control funding formula. And that is for if any schools find themselves in a category that's called support and improvement. And there are 3 levels of support and improvement. The comprehensive support and improvement is the highest, targeted support and improvement, and additional targeted support and improvement. And in the past, we have had 2 sites that were in the additional targeted support and improvement category. Because of COVID and some of the stoppage of the California dashboard, those 2 sites are sitting still in this category, even though they've met the criteria to exit the category. So the state has basically put all of that on hold. And so, as I said, Robla is one of those sites. Taylor was the other site. They have shown the data, and this was in the area of suspension rates. But the data has improved. So that is an area that you'll see that there's a new component in the school level plans that's a needs assessment that's in relation to that. The other requirement is that the superintendent must review the LCAPs and the school plans to see that there's an alignment there. The state is really trying to reduce redundancy, and so you're going to see a lot of common language. You're going to see that we utilize the same improvement model to develop these plans. And in some aspects, there's going to be some just very, like the same verbiage across plans, because also in Robla, we work very closely together. The principals work together. I work with the principals in the plan development, in the needs assessment. They share their ideas, share data sources, and things like that. Okay, so you will see some areas that look very similar or the same in the plans. Some of the challenges that we've been facing, as all the challenges that we've been facing with the pandemic, is a couple of the components that are a requirement, mainly is the stakeholder engagement component. And with the school plans requiring that they involve the community as well as the teachers, they need to hold regular meetings. So the principals have been doing this through Zoom meetings. They've also engaged with their stakeholders, and sometimes in one-on-one because the stakeholder wasn't able to attend the Zoom meeting. But they have continued to go through that process. Data has been a huge challenge, and mainly because the data is old, the data that's there. So part of the requirement of the school plan is to use the California School Dashboard. And the California School Dashboard on the left here, let's see, is that on? This is what the dashboard used to look like on the left side there, where you would have the different aspects of reporting requirements and the results of those reporting requirements. If you were to go into the California School Dashboard today, what you would see is on the right. All you're going to see on there is the student population data. And there's a paragraph that talks about, due to the COVID pandemic, there's been a suspension of the California School Dashboard. There is still some data that's reported through another system called DataQuest. So principals were able to use some of this data, for example, for chronic absenteeism. That data was still available. But for the most part, almost all the data that would be in the California School Dashboard, that they would use for their plan development isn't there. So what you're going to see is their plans have the old California school dashboard data, which would be that 1819 dashboard data in them. And part of that is because the California school dashboard is part of the requirement of the plan. But the principals and I and the district have also really been trying to look into what data can we use. At the time that they're developing their plans, we were under the assumption that we would be giving the CASP ELA math assessments as well as the ELD assessment. The LPAC, or the English Learner Performance Assessment for California, is in the process right now. So we will have LPAC data going forward. Later tonight, you're going to be hearing from Gail Hunt, our curriculum director, regarding what's happening with state assessment data currently. But again, the principals are developing this plan. They start way back in January. So they kind of have to go through this process with what we know at that point in time. So they'll talk to you a little bit about, you know, what they're doing in regards to that, but you are going to see old data in the plans. Okay. So assessment has been a huge topic in the district. We have a number of committees. I gave a presentation back in February regarding our work with California Education Partners. And we were talking about how we're looking at our early literacy and what type of assessments and what type of data that we collect for early literacy. We also have a second collaborative that's with the California Education Partners that is the preschool,
P3CC.
P3CC, which is pre-kindergarten through third grade collaborative, and they're looking at math. So lots of work happening right now, but it's work that's in the process. And again, you know, the principals have been working on these plans throughout the year, so they're not able to put any of this kind of data in the plans at this point. I'm sure when they give their update in the fall of the next school year, you'll be hearing more about, you know, what's happening and how we're utilizing our own local assessment data and data that's available to us to drive what we're doing at our school sites and in the district. And that's really, I just wanted to give you that information before they come in and present, because those are some of the things that you were going to notice in the plans. Do you have any questions or comments before I hand this off to Mr. Penman? Okay, so tonight you're going to be hearing from Mr. Penman for Robla School and Ms. Newhouse for Main Avenue School. And next meeting, the plans will be up for approval by the board. And at that time too, you'll also be hearing from the other three principals regarding the other three school sites. Okay? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Reyes, and audience members. It's a pleasure being here tonight to kind of go over some of the things that we have been challenged with this school year. I'll tell you, this is my 18th year of being a principal, and this has probably been the most difficult year, and because it was so challenging, like we're all stating. But I will say that, you know, the resolve of Robla District has never stopped amazing me with the activities that we challenged ourselves with, and moving forward together as a collective team has been pretty extraordinary. So when we're thinking of our assessments that why isn't this moving? When we're looking at our assessments, yes, we do not have CASP, but we do have assessments that we look at all year long. So I hope that you will see some of that when I explain it out to you during the presentation. There are other data points that we look at throughout a school year. It's not just about the CASP. But we are going to look back a little bit just to see where we were and where we're going to go in our future. You can see that we are in 17, 18, 19. We were at 42%, 41, and 41. We talked at School Site Council, we talked to all our stakeholders, and we decided that we were going to discuss once again what our proficiency levels were going to be. And as I've stated in the past, Robla has always been in that 50% zone. That's what we expected our students to achieve. We always keep high standards at Robla. So a lot of the conversation surrounded about, well, Mr. Penman, there's been loss of learning. There's been loss of learning. And so it was a little bit of a lively discussion. Usually we're always about that 50%. So they said, well, can we go lower? And I said, sure, we can do whatever we decide to do. One of the school site council members stated, why would we go lower than 50%? It's the Mustang way. And that said a lot, because it's about the culture of high expectations no matter what time of the year it is or what year it is. We have that in our fabric of our culture and Robla School that we want our kids to always achieve no matter what. So we decided on 50%, and that's where we stuck to. We do have other assessments from TCI. Gail Hunt and the team told us that we're going to work on some of the fluency and the ELFA. We had some phonics surveys that we had to do too. So there are other things that the teachers were looking at to drive our instruction. One thing that we sometimes take for granted is the information that principals get through their walkthroughs. Now, even if this was distance learning, it was a different format, of course. We still did walkthroughs. This is a tool that we use for the remote learning. We had these on our iPads. Mr. Reyes told us that we were going to work on engagement, but of course we worked on all the other elements as well. Engagement was just our focus area. And so we continue to visit classrooms and collect data on our own to decide if there was specific feedback that we were needing to give to our collective staffs or our individual teachers. With that said, there was a couple of things that I completely noticed during my visits to the distance learning platform. So this SPSA to me reminded me that it is a fluid document. There are points and times that we have to modify and change things in real time. During the distance learning, when I went in to see those classrooms, the kids were never reading. They were on the other side. The teachers were reading things on the screen, but I never saw students reading. So we had a PLC about that, and we had a big discussion and I said, listen, I understand. This is a very difficult time. These are things that we're not accustomed to. So let's talk about it and strategize how we can have our students read, even if they're in the distance learning platform. So I was very excited to see that a lot of strategies came out of this. And of course, when I did more walkthroughs, students were reading all the time. It wasn't that we weren't wanting to do it, it's just we weren't seeing it at the time. And so I had to kind of see it for them. And that's the importance of an observation. That's data right there. It was real-time data that I was noticing. So I was very proud of my team who strategized for about 75 minutes to figure out how we were going to address this issue. The Knowledge Nook came about for the very same reason. There were issues in what we were trying to do, learning this platform at the very beginning of time. So the wonderful teachers in Robla District came across all of these things that were tools for the teachers in assessments, communication, content, and engagement. Now, the principals and everybody else were becoming very familiar with these things over time. What I noticed is an app called Pear Deck. And one of the things that I've observed in my observations going online is that the teachers were giving the students information, but they didn't see any work production on that end. Sometimes they had the students show the paper, but that didn't always translate well because you couldn't really see 24 kids and what everybody was giving. So this app, Pear Deck, I purchased it for the site after I found out about it because the teacher does a lesson on the left side. It's just Google Docs. They create the lesson, they give them the skills, the concepts, and they ask questions. The students go into Pear Deck and they see the same thing that you see on the screen and they give real-time answers. So this is for math, for ELA, they can be any kind of curricular area. The teachers saw real-time on their devices what the students were saying. Now you see bird and bear and crab because we don't want to, we don't want the kids' names on there because other kids could say, well, that kid said this and that kid said that. So we're just trying to give them a place where they can be feeling safe about what they write out there. And so the teacher has this real time as well. So that was a big game changer for Robla School. Another assessment piece that we always looked at was fluency and phonics. And so teachers had this to access to drive their instruction. Strategies in ELA, the red is what we usually do throughout a school year. The blue is all kinds of opening our thinking, our flexibility, different opportunities that we need to take now that we're knowing that kids had learning loss. We're going to have to do things differently. So I have summer school question mark. Of course, we want summer school. What is that going to look like? Who are we going to serve? Interventions. And the interventions look differently. They can't look the same. We have a lot of students that need intervention, so we have to think outside the box. The pandemic task force, as Mr. Reyes talked about, are going to have recommendations for the principals and the school sites. Do the teacher schedules stay the same? Do they work together as a collaborative grade level and have the same exact schedule so that they can work differently with the kids and maybe have kids go back and forth in groups? And can we have a different way of looking at family connection during this time? Families have been so amazing during this pandemic. They have been very supportive as much as they can be. And how can they help us in the learning? Can we send them the papers that have gaps of curriculum that the child needs services with? Can they help us with that at home for a month of September? Can we give them another set of curricular areas that the student needs help in? It's just another way of thinking. We gotta really try to think outside the box as we move forward. In the area of math, we were at 34, 34, and 36. That's where we left off. Once again, we have to continue to look at different strategies. This is an assessment that we have topic tests and unit tests in the areas of math. So this is something that the teacher looks at. It's not always about CASP. This is another area that we have access points at all year long. So if we're taking a look at this data piece, we look at question 14 and 15, maybe question 21 and 22. We can see there's a lot of red there. Maybe the teacher needs to review the lesson or pull a group of students to help with that curricular concept that they're not getting. Here's a couple of students using Pear Deck once again. This is in math. Some of our disciplinary discussion pieces is very important in our district. This did not go away during distance learning. We expected our kids to talk as much as possible, and we had them in breakout rooms. Here's a couple of kids who are doing a math lesson. Now, if those kids decided to do the writing on their Chromebooks, and they started doing squares on those squares, the teacher would see that. So that's why it's so important to have that app that gives them access to what the students are doing on their devices. Once again, strategies in math that we've done in the past, and of course I put all the other ones in blue, that we got to think in all our areas, we're gonna have to think a little bit outside the box. English language development, we are at 45% making progress at the time. When back 2 years ago, we talked about serving those 34% and the 20%. The 34% was the students who stayed stable in their language. They did not go up or down, they just stayed stable, but that was a big group of students. So the EL teacher and I were talking about targeting those students. This year, since we didn't have the LPAC data, we had the alpha that the teachers gave to the students. This was about receptive and expressive language that the teachers worked on, and got information about the kids on that to kind of drive their instructions during their EL time during the school day. Now, the piece that I talked to my staff about is integrating the EL piece of strategies during the school day with these students. They weren't talking enough, they weren't speaking enough, they weren't listening enough during this platform of distance learning. So we have a lot more room to hopefully get this under control when we go back in the fall, if we go back in the fall full time. Parent involvement, we went up 30% in back to school night. We went up 7% in parent conferences, and our Robla Teacher Parent Club is a part of our ELAC and School Site Council, and they are always asking me if we need anything at Robla, and they're always there for us. School climate and student engagement. as Cindy Lyons stated, we did have chronically absent student problem issues. We have completely addressed that and revamped what our system was not accomplishing, and now we're accomplishing everything we want to. And that year we had 38 students that were chronically absent. This school year we're at 23, still a little on the higher end, but as you see across the district, there are 305 students that are chronically absent. We are the lowest. So what we are doing is working in our plan. Our attendance is the green for this school year. It's pretty high. We do a lot of incentivizing. We're trying to get our kids excited about school and engage them pretty well. Now, it's hard to be excited about that because the honest truth is that they're there, but they're not always doing the work. And so that's kind of the fault in this kind of picture. Yes, I'm so happy that they're there, but engaging in that work has been hit or miss with the kids, which we continue to work on. I'd like to thank Mr. Khan and Ms. Schlesinger for this. This is a Robla dashboard. It is all about PBIS and kind of recognizing students for what they're doing well, rewarding students for their good work in class, and showing up to school and engaging. There's also SEL stuff in here, bully prevention stuff in here, and also just rewarding or recognizing staff for all of their hard work with shout outs. Here's a couple of our students who came. They were working hard in class. They were doing all of their work, and so they were recognized at school. Every grade level had students that they sent to us every month to recognize students who are working hard or showing up to school, and that makes them extremely excited. The last piece here is suspension data. As you can see, we kept going down every single year, 1.8, 1.6, 0.7. This school year, I do not have any suspensions. The kids who gave us a little bit of hard time, those students just didn't engage too much in the process. So we'd have to work on them to try to get them engaged and plugged in, which is very difficult. They're part of our chronically absent population. But overall, we've really heard the message that suspending our children isn't the end all be all. It's about what we do to serve them and give them strategies and work with them. So that has been a clear message throughout the district. I'd like to thank the social worker and psychologist because they're a big part of that process of helping students out with those kinds of behaviors. So I know that was quite a bit, but you know, it's been a pretty long, arduous year, and I hope that kind of gave you a little bit of a picture of what we've been going through this school year. And are there any questions?
I have one. So you were talking about the reading fluency, or you weren't seeing kids reading.
Yes.
And I know a lot of kids are struggling with that.
Yes.
Are the schools using hoopla.com? It links to your Sacramento library card. There's a kids section, and you can get 5 free digital rentals a month from the library.
Okay, I will take note of that. I'm not sure if other principals have done that work, but we have not at Robla.
Okay, so it's Hoopla, HOOPLA.com. They can sign up at the SAC Library website to get their library card. You put that right into Hoopla, and you can rent 5 digital copies a month.
Excellent.
So it may increase student reading.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
What did you say developed that Robla dashboard?
Mr. Khan and Mrs. Schlesinger?
That's a nice job. And also, you know, what it says to me is it shows the interest of the teachers trying to do all they can during this troubling time. And I'm not going to mention any names or districts, but I've talked to a couple other teachers that I know from outside the district, and they really don't have much going on. To me, it seems like other than just kind of babysitting online, and I don't see. And I'm not blaming them. I think it's the higher up is why the interest is low. But I think again, our district is always shown the willingness to do all they can to.
I appreciate that, Mr. Boyd, because it has been difficult for staff, and they just keep amazing me with the resilience that they have shown all year long. And it just shows that, Robla District has that mantra that we are not going to stop until we serve these kids right. And that's what they're doing. And so,
Thank you.
very proud of them. So thank you for your comment.
Yeah, I was going to actually note the same thing, even when it comes to some of the assessments. I mean, obviously, the things you're looking at and the things you're looking for change because obviously the situation and the conditions have changed. And one, your ability to recognize that and bring that up, and then the staff's ability to take that feedback and actually put it into constructive use and actually try to develop strategies, I think is exactly what we want from our staff. I mean, it's, working together as a group to try and make sure we're meeting the best needs of kids. And I appreciate you for sharing those examples.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments?
Okay, have a good evening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. Come on in, Miss Newhouse.
Come on down.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Good to see you in person.
Yes,
it is. Much better than on Zoom. I'm going to talk with you tonight about Main Avenue's school level plan for 2021-22. Am I doing it right, Adam? All right, thank you. So these are our 5 areas that Mr. Penman just walked you through for his school level plan. English language arts, math, English learners, parent engagement, and school climate. We have had challenges with data this year, as Ms. Lyon, Mr. Penman had spoken about. We're operating off of old data from our CASP dashboard from 18-19. We also just had a limited number of uploads of district assessments in our Illuminate data management system. So we had to spend more time at the site looking at just our site data and what we were seeing from that during our PLC time during grade levels. And then there's some challenges with the validity of the assessments given via distance learning with internet issues or lag time. A teacher might be giving an assessment and the response the student they gave was for the question 5 seconds ago. So they weren't sure if what their response was. So we decided as a school site council and as a site to maintain our expected outcomes for ELA, math, and English learners as we had written them in 18-19 for our CASP data. But I do have updated attendance data from Illuminate to show you, as well as suspension data, and then some current parent involvement data from this year that we can show you. We did write these goals with what we know now, with the understanding that things will change as the district is working on their overarching plan for the fall and addressing the learning loss and the social emotional needs of students, because this is a living document. But we do feel that we have targeted some good strategies for next year. So just to give you a refresher on where we did leave off with our CASP data. In English language arts, this is a 2-year comparison, 17-18 to 18-19. And to note, this does not have the Taylor Gate classes in it, because the last time we did take CASP, we were housing half of Taylor Street School, and 2 of those classrooms were our GATE classes. And we wanted to make sure that when we're looking at our data from year to year, that it's really our Main Avenue students who are there from year to year. So we had pulled out that GATE CASP data. So we did overall grow from 38% to 40% in our met and exceeded, as well as we had a 14-point gain in our points from standard. What we talked about for next year and some things that we had started prior to school closure, and we feel that they're good to bring back because they're good practices, as well as add some new practices in as well. We had been doing something called a workshop style portion of the day where we had a lot of differentiated instruction for ELA. And this was across the entire school, and it takes a lot of coordinated effort to do this, but it allowed teachers to do some tier 1 supports in their classroom, and then we coincided it with our tier 2 and tier 3 supports. We have spent a lot of time as a staff over the past years doing horizontal and vertical articulation during our PLC meetings and our staff meetings, and this is where we look at standards across grades K through 6. We identified some specific ones, in particular writing and language standards, and these we'll have to see as we head more into the fall if these are still appropriate specific standards to focus on as a site, or if we need to make some adjustments. For 2 years, we had an MOU with SCOE where we focused on foundational skills and IABs in writing. And just to show you how things change very quickly, I met with our SCOE representatives on Monday, and because of some engagements that they have and some some time they have to spend on new grants, right now we can't agree to an MOU with them just because of time at this point. They have us on their wait list, but they did give us some good resources that we can look into that do address foundational skills and that we can put our Title I money towards. And then we will continue to purchase some computer programs and apps that we found were successful, such as Pear Deck, Flipgrid, Screencastify, Accelerated Reader, and Read Live. We do feel that with extended day in the fall, we need to take a more intensive and cohesive approach to how we're addressing that tier 2 support that teachers give in small group. Our grade level teams will continue to work collaboratively, and I think this is going to be a big part of some of the work that needs to happen at our site, because we're going to have to address that learning loss, and they're going to have to do so as a team with all of their students, say at 3rd grade or 4th grade. And then we'd like to bring back our after-school tutorials that we had in our upper grades for our students. We haven't really been able to do that with school closure, and it's something that we found was powerful. For math, again, without Taylor students, though we loved having our Taylor students there, we had some great growth overall. We grew from 24% to 32% with a 12-point increase towards standard. A lot of our strategies that we feel were good for ELA can also be good for math. We did not have a workshop style portion of the day for math, and this might be something that we have to consider doing as well to address the needs of students there. So this is going to take a lot of coordination and discussion as a site about how we can make this work to support both ELA and math. Again, looking at our extended daytime, working collaboratively, continuing purchases of certain computer programs like MobiMax has worked well. When we did our horizontal and vertical articulation in these standards, we targeted number sense, fact fluency, and word problems. Those tend to be ones that over time seem to be more challenges for our students, but we'll have to see if this is consistent when we go into the fall. And again, bringing back our after-school tutorials. Our English learners, we had 44.2% making progress towards English language proficiency, but we do have a number of students who need to advance to the next LP level, and we need to address that. We will have current LPAC data scores, which will be great for the fall, because we can take this data to make some decisions to specifically target our work with our EL students. And we found that in our past CASP data, this was a group that we need to spend a little more time with to make sure that they're making the appropriate progress. So our goals here, our EL specialists will continue to work with our students who are at the emerging level. This is a bit new. I'd like to bring in some either professional development or use the strengths that we have on our site to do some in-house professional development to just ensure that we're really using all the curricular resources that we have in our ELD program and maximizing our instructional time for English learners. And that's not just for our designated time, but also for our integrated. And while we've spent a lot of time diving into our math and ELA standards, we need to spend some more time as a site on an ongoing basis looking at our ELD standards as well. We have win time at Main Avenue, which has been there for many, many years, and it's what I need time, and this is our designated ELD instruction time, as well as time that we can focus in on with our English-only students. But I call it 2.0 because I just don't think it's going to look quite the same as it has been over the years. We're really going to have to look at, are we utilizing this time the most efficiently and cohesively? For parent involvement, I've 3 graphs for you here. The first is parent conferences. In 1920, we had 85% attendance. In 2021, which was our distance learning year, we increased to 89%. So we've set a goal for 90% for the fall. For back to school night in 1920, we were 43%. This past year, 45%. We have set a bit of a lofty goal, but I think because of the new level of teacher-parent relationship that's been built over distance learning, that we can maximize on this and get our parents here for back to school night. In particular, I think if it can be in person. And then we've had an evening for several years called Parents Are Students Too. We renamed it this year to Parents Are Students and Teachers Too because parents became teachers this year, more so than ever. When we did this in 1819, we had 58 parents attend. We had to cancel because of school closure. And then this year when we did it, it was completely virtual and we had 100 parents attend. So we've set a goal to hopefully reach 110 parents. And then some of the things that we've done that have helped engage and involve parents over time is our school messenger, our phone calls, our benchmark one, which is our newsletter system. And we've had to use this more this year than ever. We have a very good Facebook and Instagram following, and we post on a regular basis. And I know, Ms. Cardona, you follow us, and sometimes I see you like our posts, so thank you.
Thank you.
We'll continue with our Parents, Our Students, and Teachers tonight, and this could possibly become an evening that's like a hybrid evening where we can have parents who attend in person and virtually because we found success with that virtual piece. Parents could Zoom for parent conferences this year, and we felt like that's another great option to make sure that parents can have because they just have to step away from their workspace maybe instead of getting in their car, traveling to school, taking time away from work, and then having to go back. Continuing with our Parents, Our Students tonight, and then we'd like to also add a night that addresses the social emotional learning and work with parents about how they can manage this piece at home as well. And in a little bit, I'll talk to you about what we're doing at the site. And many teachers use the Dojo communication app, and this is an app where parents and teacher can go back and forth and stay in a regular contact where sometimes a phone call isn't always, parents are able to step away and answer the phone. Events we'd like to restart in person, if we are in person in a more full manner, or at least in a hybrid manner, is our farmers market. This is something we've had for a number of years at Main Avenue, where we had parents who came in to volunteer. We hope we can bring that back. Have back to school night in person, and then we always had a PBIS family night, and this was working with our families on that program. This just gives you a couple of screenshots of one of our social media posts for parents or distance learners and teachers too. A screenshot of one of the slides from that evening from one of the classrooms. And that's our little dojo friend. For school climate and pupil engagement with attendance, this is data from Illuminate from August 19 to March 20 and August 20 to March 2021. And I'd like to thank Mr. Vivier, who gave us really fantastic reports every month to be able to see how our attendance was progressing. For this year, overall, we went down just under 1%. You can see that one of our groups that did go down more significantly was our special ed students. And I think part of the reason is because distance learning can be a challenge for a student who already might have some intensive learning needs and have some issues, and maybe the distance learning platform just wasn't the best platform for them. and they would be more successful in person. Our chronic absences went from 10% to 13%. We do now have 7 of the 13 kindergartens at Main Avenue because we're housing from Bell and Robla as they go through their construction projects. We found that just historically, this is a group that struggles more with attendance, and in distance learning, it was just compounded. Being a 5-year-old, maybe this is my first time coming to school. Maybe this is not the best learning mode for them as well, to sit on Zoom for a number of hours. For suspension, you can see we decreased significantly. No suspensions this year, and last year we only had 2 suspensions. We spend a lot of time finding solutions to keep students in school and work on behavior plans and behavior supports to help them change their behavior, because suspension is not going to help them change their behavior. So for school climate and pupil engagement, zones of regulation is something I've talked with you about before. This is a curriculum that addresses the social emotional learning of students. We as a staff had planned to start this year, but and do the training in the spring of 2020, but because of we had to change gears with distance learning, we had to put it on the side for a little bit, but we are bringing it back. We are doing some in-house professional development. My MTSS team is working to create this for staff. We're going to do the training before the end of this year, and we're going to do a full implementation of using the zones of regulation training for our students. We continued with attendance incentives, both individual and class-wide. We're in year 6 of PBIS, and that continues to be a very strong piece at Main Avenue with a strong Tier 1 and Tier 2 team. And then this is a piece we'd like to bring back that's just we haven't been able to address in particular with distance learning, is just bringing more multicultural experiences and activities and experiences for our students that really reflect the community that we serve. We've spent some time spending money on our library and ensuring that we're having a more diverse representation of literature, but we'd also like to be able to, if we're back in person, bring some of these experiences back to the site. And events to restart in person, hopefully. We had monthly character trait assemblies where we gathered and students worked on a specific trait for that month. Again, farmers market, because our student council ran farmers market. And then we, as a district, have halted the SART and SARB process for attendance, but we'd like to bring this back to just ensure that all the adults who are responsible for a child's attendance are held accountable. And this gives you a screenshot of what we post on social media for our weekly attendance to congratulate our students. And then this gives you an example of zones of regulation, which is based on 4 colors and where you might fall in that moment with how you're feeling. And we like this graphic because this is based on a movie called Inside Out that students can relate to about how they're feeling. Okay, so thank you. Any questions?
I wanted to commend you on how much effort you've put into making sure families are all engaged during distance learning. It seems like you've really put a lot of effort into it, and like it's been very successful.
Thank you. The staff worked very hard this year in trying to create in particular, an event where teachers could work with parents to help them with the learning at home and give them some really concrete strategies and activities that they could do. So thank you for recognizing that.
Also, like all the things that you're projecting that you like to bring back when you come back.
We hope.
Yeah, you hope. Is that based on any feedback from the parents and the families themselves, or is this?
We have,
for instance, farmers market.
Mhm.
Are you hearing that we're missing that?
yes, that's something that we'd like to be able to bring back. We had a good pool of parents who were there every week to help us set up.
Uh-huh.
And I have gotten questions about, is that something that we can bring back for our students?
Any other questions or comments? Once again, another excellent plan. Just like you demonstrated, once again, you're focused on, in particular, I like the focus on how are we going to address learning loss. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of it seems like a lot of places where you're developing communications and conversations about that, but also you're also looking at implementing strategies with it as well. So excellent plan.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newhouse.
Excuse me.
That's you.
All right, so now we're going to move on to alternatives to CASP assessments.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Good evening, trustees and Mr. Reyes. As Cindy Lyon mentioned, my report tonight is an update on our state testing. So for the 2021 school year, the U.S. Department of Education is granting the flexibility for California districts to administer their own district assessments rather than the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress, otherwise known as the CASP. Each district may consider which of these options is the most feasible to work successfully with this year due to our current situation. If the district feels they have strong reasons to offer the district assessments, then we are allowed to do that. And the district assessments must be a comprehensive measure of California state grade level standards. The State Board of Education has adopted criteria that must be met if a district chooses to give their local assessments. So you can see here that our assessments must be aligned with the California Common Core standards for English, language arts, and math. Our assessments need to be available to assess our students in grades 3 through 6. We need to administer the same test to all students across a grade level. And we need to publicly report our student data in the School Accountability Report Card in the 2021 SARCs. In addition to that, we would need to provide this data to teachers and families. It's our opinion that our district created benchmark end-of-year assessments meet this criteria. This year, the CASP test can be administered remotely or in person to accommodate our current situation of students being in school on the cohort schedule and also in the distance learning environment. Teachers and students typically only work in the CASP platform once a year. However, state testing didn't even happen last year. So this means each year the platform is somewhat unfamiliar. And this year, there are many new additions and tools for teachers and students to learn in order to administer the test remotely. For example, the teacher has to start the assessment with students in a Zoom meeting, give all of the directions, and then switch from a Zoom meeting to the CASP testing site while students switch to the secure browser on their Chromebook. Technical issues have been problematic this year, especially for students testing remotely. So testing in general is anxiety producing, but this year there are added pressures of the new tools and the new way of testing, which causes anxiety for teachers and students as well. It's important for us to also consider the timing for giving the test, as our students have just returned to school and everyone is getting used to a new way of doing things. We want to stay sensitive to the social emotional needs of our students and teachers. Our district end-of-year benchmark assessments is based on a range of grade level Common Core standards. It's comprehensive and a reliable assessment of students mastering the grade level standards. Not only do these assessments look familiar to our students, but the process of taking the test is familiar as well, which makes them much less anxiety producing for our students as well as our teachers. Our benchmark assessments are designed by our teachers and connected to the instruction in the classroom, and as mentioned, of course, aligned with Common Core standards. Should we decide to give our benchmark assessments because we feel it is the most feasible option for our students, we would administer our English, language arts, and math end-of-year benchmark assessments to our students.
However, the California Department of Education does not want us to administer an alternative local assessment for the California Science Test or the California alternate assessments. So as stated earlier, it is our opinion that our district created benchmark end-of-year assessments meet the criteria that the State Board of Education is requiring, and we feel it's the most feasible option for our students and teachers this year due to our current circumstances and in order to be sensitive to their needs. We hope you will approve the use of our district ELA and math benchmark assessments as replacements for the CASP assessments this year, which is action item 7D on the board agenda. Thank you for your consideration of this matter. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? Any questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Hunt.
All right, we'll now move on to facilities update.
Good evening. My name is Emilio Flores with CFW. To give you an update on the district's facilities program. First off, congratulations on the new boardroom. I'd like to, I must say that not just the boardroom, but the whole facility. For those the public don't know, it's the boardroom as well as the new administrative offices for the district. It's quite lovely. Just quickly giving you an update of where we are overall. Right now, we are currently in progress in construction at Robla Elementary. More specifically, we've been moving over from framing into actually getting ready to put on stucco. So the next couple of weeks, what you'll start seeing is them to actually put on the exterior coat of stucco onto the building. But in the last month, you can see we've made plenty of progress actually putting on the siding and starting framing for the windows and for other facilities. Our goal here is to complete construction of the two-story classroom building over the summer and start preparing for occupancy in the fall of 2021. So right now we're trying to get our weatherproofing done. We're expecting some showers, and we want to get to a point where all the work inside can go forward. And we continue to coordinate with both our construction teams as well as district staff in the installation of the other systems that we will be looking at in those buildings. At Bell Avenue, we are progressing quite nicely. We have, as you can see, started framing the administrative building. This will house both the administration as well as the library media center. Just outside of the frame here, you can see the foundation, that bottom corner of the two-story classroom building. That is currently scheduled to be completed sometime in the fall of 2021. Our hope is to have occupancy and to move in towards the end part of the year as our current schedule allows us to do. We've been really working on, besides just framing, is utilities. We have two new connections from Bell Avenue into the site, providing us power, water, and sewage. And we are continuing to work and coordinate with the city in order to make sure that those connections are continuing to go forward. I must add, on top of the principals' reports about their school sites, as was alluded to, I think all the principals have done an amazing job of accommodating construction. We are currently slated to have construction on 3 sites. And we are obviously impacting as well the operations of Main Avenue as they have taken in students from both Bell and from Robla as we commence construction over there as well. The goal over at Bell Avenue is to complete the two-story classroom building, have the occupancy, and then commence with the modernization of the existing classroom wings, as well as the construction of the kindergarten classroom wing sometime in the winter of 2021 into 2022. Both at Robla and at Bell Avenue, the linchpin to our moving schedule, our construction schedule, is the completion of the two-story classroom buildings. That enables us to move the students from the existing classroom wings. So as over at Robla, we have a row of portables towards the back at the maintenance area, as well as the permanent classroom building next to the MPR. Those students will be moving into that new two-story classroom building, which will then allow us to demolish those and then to proceed with the installation of modular classroom wings to complete the campus over there. Similar concept over at Bell Avenue as well, is once we have the ability to occupy the two-story classroom building over there, we'll move the students from the existing classroom wings into that building, and then we'll be able to proceed with modernization and reconfiguration of the site on the other side as well. It is, in Robla's case, we are hoping to have, or we're currently scheduled to have, the entire campus ready for occupancy no later than the school year of 2022. We're hoping to move that up as quickly as possible and potentially making that available sometime in the late spring of 2022. At Glenwood, we continue to coordinate with the city of Sacramento. There are a number of improvements that they've requested us to incorporate into our plans. We need to do that before receiving DSA approval for that project. Once we have DSA approval, we'll be able to adopt a guaranteed maximum price or a GMP with the contractor and proceed with construction. For those of you who may have driven by Glenwood in the last few weeks, we have put up temporary fencing in anticipation of that approval and moving forward with that particular project. And we are working with the contractor in establishing a bit of a maintenance schedule, if you will, while we await demolition. So for instance, trying to address some of the weeds that are growing and then some of the other stuff that is on site as well. In all of these cases, in Bell, Robla, and Glenwood, we're on two sides of the spectrum right now in terms of what we call transition planning. We at CFW have been working with the district in developing plans for the de-occupancy, if you will, of sites. So making sure that teachers have the ability and administrators have the ability to pack up their stuff in order to facilitate construction. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, we are trying to make transition plans for us to start working with occupancy. So, you know, what does moving into the new facilities look like? What do we do about professional development around commissioning of new systems? We adopted a very similar process when we built the two-story classroom building at Main Avenue, as well as the modular building over at Taylor and the modernization over there as well. So we are working with our partners on that at the district and beyond. And we're continuing to make safety a top priority for all of our construction teams. In particular, you know, wherever we have any proximity to students as they've returned to campus, we're making sure that our construction teams are aware of those schedules, making sure we don't have any heavy machinery moving around too much during pickups and drop-offs, and making sure that we're able to continue to keep those sites clear wherever possible. One of the things that we look forward to in the summer is really being able to get a lot of the utility work done. That's when we do a lot of our work, especially over at Glenwood. Right now, we're looking for the construction of the new modular classroom building at Glenwood, as well as hopefully starting off the modernization process over there as well. Let's see here. I think that's it on that one. Unfortunately, there's a slide that I don't think made it in here, but overall on the time schedule, and I'll make sure that is transmitted to you folks.
It's number 2.
Oh, perfect. There we go. Oh, there. Thank you, Adam. And so this just kind of gives you a summary of kind of where we are and looking in terms of construction schedules as a whole. So we've gotten rid of the little chevrons. I kind of showed you how we're going through the approval process with DSA. Now that we're construction at all these sites, I think it's very important for us to share with you and the public, you know, kind of where we see things landing. As I mentioned at Bell Avenue, we look to have occupancy of that admin building and the classroom building sometime in October. We're trying to key off of your fall break. I know that that date hasn't been set, but typically there's a fall break in October that we're aiming for, potentially for a move. And for some reason, have to be delayed till winter break. That's something we can accommodate as well. And then seeing that new construction of the kindergarten buildings and the classroom modernization moving forward as well. Robla, very similar time schedule, except we're trying to hit the beginning of school. Once again, a date to be determined. But that is something that we are making sure that we're working hard towards as well, so we can begin the other modular classroom construction. And then at Glenwood, like I said, that's probably the most dependent on that DSA approval when we get started. Regardless of when we get DSA approval, it is our intent to move forward with the kindergarten modular building, as that area is isolated along Jesse Ave, and we're able to do that construction without affecting the operations of the rest of the school. One of the things that is currently in limbo is whether or not we can kick off that modernization project in tandem with that. And there are two major factors to that. One, the availability of interim housing, so our ability to move students around. As you may be aware, currently we've been utilizing Main Avenue as our primary interim housing site. And that's currently holding students from, or serving students from Bell Avenue as well as Robla. And so once those two facilities are completed, we should free up some space. But if for some reason that does not occur, we'll go forward with the kindergarten project and then reset the timeline for modernization going forward. Otherwise, things are looking good. We've had a very dry winter. Most people will say that that is a bad thing to the drought, and that's absolutely true. But for construction, it's been somewhat uneventful, which is good. We had about a 3-week period in December and November that really gave us some concern for a heavy, wet winter. Somehow that has dissipated, but overall, construction has been moving along quite well. So with that, happy to answer any questions the board may have at this time as we go forward.
Any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Last month, we approved extra funding to dry out the ground. Since it's been dry, did you have to use that funding or no?
So it was a couple months ago.
Oh, was it?
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. And we had just come out of a potentially a very wet storm weather. And so the way that works is that we don't actually.
Oh, well, if you use it, don't worry about it.
We used
I
it-
was just asking because in
Absolutely.
my mind, it was last month.
It was during a particularly wet portion, and
Yeah.
just to give a little detail, what that does is it's not that we were out there with hair dryers or anything of that nature trying to dry
Right.
the ground. What it was is we had to add a certain chemical compound to the concrete
Yeah.
so that it would cure
Ah,
in the
okay.
event of either lower temperatures or moisture. And at the time that we actually poured the foundation, those conditions were present. And so the concrete was allowed to cure without having further delays. So that was a benefit to the project. Obviously, it's been dry since. And so, hindsight being 2020, I think at the time, the board asked me questions, whether or not we had planned for that as well. But overall, it was ultimately a benefit to the project because it did allow us to maintain that timeline.
Perfect. I just wanted to double check.
Absolutely.
So thank you.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our Williams Act report.
No complaints to report.
One of my favorite reports.
That's right.
Okay, we're going to move on to item F, discussion facilities agreement with New Hope Charter School.
Thank you. I'll introduce this item and hope to get some input from the board. I think it's just important for the board to understand that we have been working very hard with our partner with the New Hope Charter to come up with a plan for creating a facility for this school. As you know, we had originally planned to open this school year and the pandemic impacted that. So we delayed the start until the upcoming school year because of a lack of space at our school sites, as well as a lack of viable spaces within our community. We have been forced to kind of be creative in terms of what we're looking at. And so the concept that is now being discussed between us, the district, and our partners at New Hope is the idea of the district reaching an agreement with New Hope Charter to allow them to put their site on the Glenwood site, specifically in the park, which I'll just remind everyone that originally the city had a park right next to Glenwood School. And at some point, the city decided they could not maintain this park and gifted us the land in the park, which for many years now, because we do not have the capacity to maintain a park, has really just been shuttered to the community. So it makes sense then, since we own this land and really don't have a use for it or a way for really developing a use for this space, that the school could go there. What New Hope is interested in doing is having us loan them the money. They would then work out a way to repay us that money. And we have actually drafted an agreement that our attorneys have put forth. And I wanted to get some direction from the board if they are feeling like this is something that the district is interested and able to do. We are financially able to do it. I would not bring this forth if I hadn't consulted very closely with our CBO, Mr. Castillo, to make sure that we have the funds to do this, and that the details of this agreement, which of course would come before the board before we would enter into it, would allow us to then loan them this money, and they would then over time repay us, and this would allow them to build this facility. We have been speaking to all of our construction experts, including Mr. Flores, who just left the room, as well as Clark and Sullivan Construction, and New Hope has been talking to them as well. And we think that even though time is tight as we sit here on April 22nd, that we could actually get this done if we are able to loan them the money and get this school up and running with portable buildings that would not be very fancy portable buildings, to be honest with you, but this is just a very temporary site until New Hope would be able to secure a permanent a grant for a permanent building of a permanent building, which they would then move to, and then we would actually these buildings would become ours, and we could discuss at that time what we might use those buildings for. So just wanted to kind of open up that discussion and see if the board is supportive of this as a concept before we bring it forward for approval in the future.
I think it sounds like a sound idea. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea, and I mean, it's imperative we get this thing going. I mean, it's been the will of the parents as long as I've been here, since 2002. The first year will be 7th grade, right?
That is correct.
Do we have any idea how many students we might?
You know, that's a very good question and a very good point, Mr. Boyd. We actually are, because we are hopeful people, and because, just as you've said, we know the community has wanted this for some time. We actually are already signing families up, and I do not have the current numbers. The last report I received from Mr. Pagani, which was actually a week ago, we had about 60 students or so that had signed up, and they are working on that on a regular basis. I sent out a school messenger to 6th grade families, letting them know that they would be contacted by New Hope staff, and New Hope staff has actually been reaching out to families one-on-one to discuss the school with them, and then to get them signed up if that's what they would like to do.
60 is encouraging at this stage, I think.
It's a good start.
You know, I just to provide a little background for those who weren't on the board, I want to say almost since I first got on the board almost 16 years ago, but at least I know definitely for the last 10 to 12 years, we had talked about the need to try and address the needs for our students who graduate 6th grade and oftentimes wind up not necessarily going to Twin Rivers because they felt like their needs weren't being met there, but many were leaving the community because they really didn't feel like they had a viable option. And quite frankly, many of them felt like if they had a viable option within the Robla School District, they would like to keep their kids with Robla, but we were being K6. We had talked for years about the idea of doing a dependent charter and about doing a dependent charter just within the district. And, you know, then when New Hope came, and New Hope has been different from every other charter organization that's come to us in that they really, number one, came to us with the idea of partnership. They didn't come in and say, hey, you know, we know what you need, even though we haven't been paying attention. We don't know much about your community, but we've got what you need. And they really came and said, you know, we see the work you're doing in Robla. We'd like to help you in any way that we can. And really, this is what's come out of a true partnership and development of this idea of this charter school. I think, and for that reason, you know, if this were other charter programs, I would probably be a little more hesitant. But because this is, like I said, truly our partner in this process and in in this venture, I feel that much more comfortable and confident in taking a step like this. So I just wanted to provide that context because I just didn't want to think, I didn't want people to think, oh, well, here's a charter school and we're just loaning a charter school. I know these are truly we are their partners in this venture.
I really appreciate you putting that in the record because I can really share those feelings. I've been so reluctant in all those proposals in the past. Nobody's ever come up with the idea that they were really interested in helping Robla. It wasn't helping themselves, but New Hope from the very beginning. I mean, they came in wanting to know what they can do to help Robla, and I just I'm so tickled along with the parents I know that anticipating this coming here. So thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
Sounds like I missed a good discussion. Sorry, I had some allergies. I have a few questions, and they're really kind of more informative. It's been a while since we talked about the actual structures. Superintendent Reyes, can you give me a little recap on the actual structures? And I'm not looking for, the big, huge description. Just, can you tell me a little bit more about the structures again?
The buildings themselves?
Huh?
Yeah, the buildings would be buildings that obviously would need to be put in very quickly, so they would come already prefabricated. They wouldn't be fancy. I mean, I know that's not a construction term, but there isn't a lot of budget for this. And because we don't need them for very long, I mean, that's the idea here. They don't want to invest a lot of money to spend on a building that they only plan to occupy for as long as it takes them to secure the permanent building construction and to pay us back the loan. We think that will be 3 to 5 years. So, I don't have, other than that, they would simply be a portable, kind of a classroom. Again, not fancy. They would have ramps. We wouldn't be investing a lot of money on building, stairs and things like that. And there would be as many as we need in order to make space for all of the students. I know that was in a lot of detail, Mr. Barnes, and I'd be happy to, get a more detailed description of the buildings, if you'd like that.
I think that would be nice.
I'd like to say one of the comment here. Several times I've heard second and third hand how Norwood Junior High has always been pleased with the students we sent them. They've been way ahead of everybody else. A couple of years ago, I don't remember the function I was at, but I happened to be sitting with the principal of Norwood at that time, and she told me the same thing, which was really a compliment to us. But I am so excited that we're going to be able to continue this education and prepare our kids on that same level entering into high school. I think it's a great thing for this community. And as we said, going back with the new facilities here, we finally have something new to show that behind these walls, we've got these great experts and all these people that are so geared into preparing our students, our scholars for the future. And it's just exciting. But I think, to me, that is the biggest thing. We have prepared, we have a long way to go. I mean, we're not perfect to get, but compared to around us, we really do a great job preparing our kids, and we can continue this. It's just going to be all the better for them.
So what I seem to be hearing is that there is support for this as a concept, and if that is indeed the case, then what we will do is we're going to look closely at the draft of the contract that was created by our attorney, and present that draft to the New Hope people so that they can look it over. I'm sure send it to their attorneys as well. And then we'll hammer out those details and then bring forth this agreement, which I assure you, Mr. Castillo and I will do our due diligence to make sure that we have the protections in that agreement that the district needs, so that we remain whole with this agreement, but also creates opportunities for our partner.
Can you give us a timeline on when you might bring those agreements to us?
Very fast, to be honest with you. Absolutely by the next board meeting. And actually, this is probably a good time for me to mention that, we do have to move very quickly because, again, if we want students to be able to come to this school in August, we have to move fast. I do anticipate that there could be even be the possibility that I may contact the board and say, we need a special board meeting in order to get this done. And I try not to make that request too often of the board, but if it becomes an urgent situation, I may contact you to possibly do that.
We always have Zoom.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Okay, with that, we'll move on to the approval of the amended consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Now, we'll move on to entertain a motion to approve the employment of our Director of Curriculum and Assessment.
So moved.
Second.
So I thank you, board members, for agreeing to pull this item out. I just feel that this is a significant action, and I wanted to pull it out separately because this is actually taking Mario Penman, who has been the principal of Robla Elementary School for 14 years, and we have selected him to become our new Director of Curriculum and Assessment. Now, Mrs. Hunt, who has notified us she will be retiring, leaves very big shoes to fill. Mrs. Hunt herself has been with the district a very long time. I like to tease her that she actually was in the room when I interviewed for the first time in the Robla School District, so it's kind of her fault that I'm here, which, depending on your thoughts of me on a particular day, might be a good thing or a bad thing. But Mrs. Hunt leaves very big shoes to fill, but we feel very strongly that Mr. Penman is not only up to the challenge, but has his own great thoughts and ideas about how he might even help us to grow this district, continue to grow our services and our programs for our students. He will be greatly missed at Robla School if the board approves this selection. He has done a great job to establish a school that is functional and positive and calm and has been moving in the right direction for a long time. And I know this is a big loss to them, but we think this is a wonderful opportunity to take his skills and his talents and grow them all the more. So I very, very excitedly and enthusiastically, you can't see it behind my mask, but it's a big smile on my face, that recommend that the board approve Mr. Penman as our new Director of Curriculum and Assessment.
Hey, any other discussion? Yeah, I would just say that I think this is more than fitting. I understand he's definitely going to be missed over at Robla as the principal, but I also recognize that even during his tenure there, he has been a leader. He's been someone who, as the way in which he does things, really has worked with his colleagues and his peers in order to help them be better. And I just think as a leader and someone who models how the job is to be done, how we educate kids, I just see this elevated role as just giving him more ability to be able to do even more of what he's been successful at Robla, and to have so many other different schools in the district to be able to benefit from his leadership. So I'm very excited to support him in this new role. So with that, I will entertain. I've already entertained a motion. First and seconded, or we'll call the roll, or not a roll, but we'll go forward to a vote. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay, move on now to action items. Action item A, we will adopt a resolution authorizing the transfer of funds.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Is there anything specific you need to speak to this?
Oh, and if there are any questions, I know Mr. Castillo is in earshot. We could bring him in to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions?
I'm here too.
Oh, there you go. Just like magic, he appears.
Okay, any questions?
Nope.
Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item B, approve district's annual audit report for the 2019-2020 school year.
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to thank all that are involved. Year after year, we come up with such great audits, and it takes a lot of work too, not only to keep us on the up and up, but just getting prepared for the audit. And I know Cindy Lyons has been real involved with it. And I'd just like to thank everybody that's been part of that.
I would also add that I'm very much looking forward to once we talk about, when we get to the point where we're able to talk about the vacation rollover, because I know that that has been something that we've been trying to address for a while. Looking forward to seeing how we figure it out. Okay, with that, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item C, approve Clark and Sullivan's prime contract change order number 1 attached to account for added scope of work already completed but not originally in the contract.
I'll move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Dr. Sharp.
This is actually about the building that we are currently in and some changes that had to be made to the planning. We kept thinking of new things that needed to be in here, and so it just caused some changes to the contract, and so we're bringing that forward. We had some money that we had set aside for other aspects of this that didn't pan out in the end, so it actually works out okay for the bottom line.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item D, approve the use of district ELA and math benchmark assessments as replacements for CASP assessments.
I'll move.
It's been moved and seconded.
This is the presentation that Mrs. Hunt did, and I just want to support the words that she spoke tonight around really feeling very strongly that this is the action that is in the best interest of our students and their well-being, their current emotional state after a year of not being in school, and also the stress that teachers are under currently and would be exacerbated, we feel, by the added pressure of the state testing. We feel like these benchmarks are much more closely tied to our instruction and would yield good information. And this is only a 1-year idea, of course, and we'll get back to the state testing in the future. But we just feel like this is, if we're given this option, we think it really is the best thing for our students and our teachers.
Yeah, I'll just say, and those of you know me, no, I don't often give our state leaders a lot of kudos for forward thinking when it comes to their policy, but allowing this, I think, is masterful, because I was very much concerned about, okay, how do we measure where our students are without the high stakes testing that CASP represents? And I just think that this is phenomenal, and because we have the tools and the resources to be able to do it, it just makes a lot of sense.
I absolutely agree with you. My son is supposed to be taking it, and I got so excited when I got a phone call that he wasn't going to have to be taking it. So
I imagine it was a big relief for a lot of students.
Well, they'll be very relieved if the board approves this, and we can tell them tomorrow.
Any further discussion? Hearing no, move on to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Item E, transportation MOU with Gateway Community Charters.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, I just would remind the board, we have been providing Gateway with transportation for some years, and our previous MOU expired, so we just needed a new one. And it actually we needed some changes because of this was impacted by the pandemic, of course. But we are able and willing to continue to provide them with this service. And need an MOU in order to do that.
Okay, any further discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll move forward to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries unanimously. Item 8, board member requests for future agenda items or reports. Trustee Devine?
Nothing.
Trustee Cardona?
Nothing.
Trustee Barnes?
None.
Trustee Boyd?
Yeah, I missed this. I had a little note when we approved the consent agenda, just skip over that. But I want to bring to attention Judy Allen retiring, our school nurse. And the request would be, I know that we will do, I can't even think of the word.
Celebration
is
or
a
a resolution?
But besides the resolution, if we could just just send her a little something that the board really appreciates all that she's done in this district. I've personally seen her a lot with the kids, and she's going to be missed. She's got a real interest in this. It's not just a nurse. She's got a real interest in this district.
I wholeheartedly agree, Mr. Boyd, and thank you for kind of pulling this out and mentioning it. But I assure you, this is not the last time we will talk about Judy Allen before she retires. We celebrate our retirees at the end of the year, and I maybe even I'm holding on to a little bit of hope that we might be able to do something in person. But if not, we'll find a virtual way to make sure that we recognize her dedication to this district. I completely agree with you.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. And I have nothing. So with that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Go to bathrooms.
Thank you.